All right. So yeah, thanks for showing up to the community call. Yeah, so I guess we all know each other, so no need for introductions. So first off, what I wanted to try to do today is try to figure out uh, maybe a date for the next meeting. We can also do that on the Slack later on, but I figured it might be best to just get that out of the way. But I will likely not be able to make the next meeting, so we could skip it, or if Santiago wants to take point on that, then I'll leave that up to you guys.
Okay, yeah, I have no problem. What's the proposed date? Um,
I would say pick some day in August.
okay. um, so we are doing it on Thursdays, right? And yeah, I don't know, maybe half month, like 13 or 20 of August. That would be fine for me, I think. So yeah, maybe one of those days. I think it's okay for me.
Yeah, do you
But yeah,
wanna, yeah, let's put that down as a proposal.
okay.
So August, what did you say? 13?
13 or 20.
Okay. Yeah, so let's propose that, and then I guess this time zone. So what I wanted to try to do with this was see if we could get Craig on the call, because he has an outstanding PR on harmonica that might need a little bit of discussion. But yeah, sadly he couldn't make it. But yeah, so if you want to keep this time zone, I don't know if this is really bad for Martin.
No, not particularly. I was locked on going badly evening. That so it's yeah, so it's fine.
Okay. All right. So let's say same time then. So 19 UTC.
Yeah, I think for me it's okay.
Okay. All right. So okay. So for quick updates, one thing I had is that we got a new pull request on Pooch, reporting a new user. So apparently this is a it's kind of like a biology package. So they analyze thin sections of cells. So that seems pretty cool. And they're using Push to download their sample imagery. And there is a call for having a tips and tricks style session in the Pooch docs for certain things that you can do that aren't very well documented or aren't really encouraged to by the docs. So maybe having like a frequently asked questions or something like that. So if anybody is good at naming things, we could use some feedback on that issue.
Okay.
Right. So that's pretty much all I had. But if anyone else has any quick updates that they'd want to share.
On Pooch or
On anything, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I wrote mine. I took the liberty to write my updates on the harmonica section down below, so I can wait.
Okay. And so just for the record, so Martin was trying, he was kind enough to try to implement some of the Fourier stuff using XRFT. but we ran into the trouble of not having an inverse transform. But that'll hopefully be fixed soon upstream, so we can move on with that. So hopefully we'll be able to ditch that part of the 0.5 Fatiando release soon and have that in harmonica.
Great.
Yeah. All right. So to get down to business, then go ahead. Mark.
No, I was just saying. I mean, that the XRFT stuff was pretty straightforward. As I say, it's just the functionality we need that's not actually there at the moment, but actually using it was very easy. So it's promising.
Yeah, this is something that hopefully, when we get the new derivative class in Verde, that it should work out of the box with the equivalent layers in harmonica. So if the data set isn't huge, we could potentially, from fitting a single layer to like an airborne survey or something, we could have a gridded data set and also have all three derivatives with a single fit. So the prediction is usually pretty lightweight, so it should be straightforward to get the three derivatives then. But a lot of things should be straightforward, but in practice they end up not being. So we'll have to see how that works. But it should be good to go soon. Right, so the first item I had here was trying to move Bool forward a little bit. So we ended up giving it a little bit of love this past week because Santiago was trying to implement a what was it that you were implementing?
On harmonica, we had the idea of implementing the equivalent layer gridder, but that works on geodetic coordinates. And so we were thinking about replacing the current spherical gridder that is useful because you can take the curvature of the Earth into account, but the problem with that is that you need to convert the coordinates that are often given in geodetic coordinates. You have to convert to spherical, feed the gridder, and then the gridder would create a grid on spherical coordinates, but you might want it on geodetic coordinates. So we were thinking about ditching the spherical gridder and replacing it with a geodetic gridder that takes geodetic coordinates and returns the grids also in geodetic coordinates. So for doing that, we need a way to compute the distances, the Euclidean distances between 2 points in geodetic coordinates. And thanks to Underlay that shared one paper that had a closed formula for doing that, we needed to compute the distances in harmonica. But for doing that, we end up needing some geodesy computation of the prime vertical radius that I'm not exactly sure how to define it, but it's probably defined by a closed formula, so no big deal. And we were actually using the prime vertical radius in Bool when converting coordinates. So we end up by doing a new method of the ellipsoid class for computing the prime vertical radius that is currently used in Bool for converting coordinates, but now we can use that in harmonica for computing the geodetic distances.
Yeah. So that ended up having to be implemented in Bool, and then so we were making the release. I ended up implementing something that SH Tools needed, which was calculating the distance from the center of the Earth to the surface of the ellipsoid. And that turned out to not actually be a whole lot of work. That there were ready-made equations on Wikipedia, and yeah, so I ended up implementing that as well. And one thing that I noticed is that Boole has very narrow scope. So it's made to solve a particular problem, which is to have these ellipsoids calculate the gravity fields, and when needed, convert some coordinates. And it has the potential to be shared infrastructure with a lot of different projects. So SH Tools is using this. It probably will be using Boole very soon. There was interest from an astrodynamics package called Polyastro, and maybe using Boole because they also need to define planetary bodies. So they end up reusing a lot of the same parameters that we have. So if we can, I think with a little push on Boole, it would be very easy to get all the features that we need. And then we could go for a JOS paper and maybe a 1.0 release. So this might be a good place to maybe invest a little and give it a little love. It might pay off soon, rather than something like Harmonica that's a bit more long term. Did we lose Martin?
I don't know. Martin, are you there?
Oh, we have two of
I
them.
am now. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure who the imposter is. So yeah, sorry, my connection dropped there.
No problem.
Yeah, no worries. Shall I try to kick him out? So are you the purple MB or the green MB?
Should be the green. Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
that's good.
No, there we go.
Oh yeah,
Got it.
there we
Got
go.
it.
Okay. Right. So just to summarize, I think Boole could be kind of ready to go for a JOS paper with a little bit more work. So what we currently need is a sphere class, because we have ellipsoids, but I thought that we could just give ellipsoid with zero flattening and use that as a sphere. But turns out that there's a singularity in the equations when the flattening is zero for normal gravity. So we kind of can't just reuse the ellipsoid for something that has no flattening, like the moon has negligible flattening. So we kind of need a sphere. The nice thing about that is that the calculating gravity for a sphere should be pretty straightforward. There really shouldn't be much. There shouldn't be much difficulty with those equations. They should be just textbook equations. It's mostly a matter of doing it, and once we have that, it wouldn't be too hard to go dig in AstroPy and SH Tools for the ellipsoid parameters, and we could have potentially all the rocky planets and a couple of satellites as well. And I think once we have that, and maybe see if there's anything other that's a bit esoteric that SH Tools might need. But once that's done, I think we could go for a 1.0 release, because the API is pretty much well established, I think, at this point. Yeah, so that would be maybe nice to, and I think there would be enough in there to get a JOS paper out of this. So we might want to try for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were discussing that maybe it's better to have the normal gravity to be aware if the flattening is zero or not, and return the and compute the normal gravity through the Somiliana equations if the flattening is not zero, or compute it as the gravity of a sphere if it's zero. But another approach could be to generate a subclass of the ellipsoids that is a sphere. So if you have, I mean, currently Boole is usually used not by actually initializing the ellipsoid, but personally, I just use the default ellipsoids that are out there. So it's not like users would have to deal with should I use a sphere or an ellipsoid, and might be a cleaner code. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of the methods we have on the ellipsoid, like they are not needed if it's a sphere. Like there's no eccentricity for a sphere. There's no conversion. There's no geodetic coordinates for a sphere. They would be the same as geocentric spherical.
Okay.
So the only thing that really would the sphere needs to have is the normal gravity, right? And
Okay.
and that should just be the same as it should be pretty much the same equation as a point mass,
Yeah.
but with the spin as well.
Sure.
Uh, right. So the second point I had here was thinking about a roadmap for Verde 2.0. So right now, there's a lot of new stuff in Verde since the last JOS paper, and there are we've been getting some requests for having other sorts of models besides just the spline. So it seems like people want to be able to like grid a classification predictor instead of a regression, which is the current spline. And we had been asked before if you could use as predictors instead of using coordinates, if you could use other observations like topography and stuff like that. But then right now Verde is a package for gridding, but if we allow these other things, then it could be a package for spatial machine learning and a bit more in general. So I think maybe if we move towards that would make a nice point to make a 2.0 release. And once we have that, then I think we would have enough in there to go for maybe a second JOS paper, or we could go with another journal if we want to diversify a little bit. But that might be a good way to get credit to everyone who's contributed to Verde since 1.0. Yeah, so I think there's potential there, and we would need to create an issue and a milestone, I guess, to discuss what would make a 2.0 release. Yeah, so I just haven't gotten around to doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and this comes back to the question of whether Verde should transition to spatial machine learning, which was sort of, there seems to be support for it, if not enthusiasm, but maybe looks like I'm not really doing anything like that. I'd be mostly using Verde for gridding, but if I can do this, it's not going to stop me from doing what to do approach from my side.
Sorry, Martin, you were cutting off there.
There seems to be support, if not overwhelming enthusiasm for it. So I think that's probably worth going towards.
Yeah, and there does seem to be a need in Python, at least. There are some R packages for this, particularly in ecology. But in Python, there really isn't much. I was searching around when I was doing the looking into the block cross validation stuff, and there was nothing like that in Python, or there was some sample codes in some repos, but nothing in an organized package. So I do think there's need, and we already have all the cross validation stuff that works with scikit-learn. It's not really. It's only in Verde because it needs some of the things in Verde in order to work. So I figured it was easier to add it there, but yeah, I think that might be a good way forward. Yeah, then you're right. There certainly is desire for that. So I think that would be an interesting way to grow the scope of Verde a little bit.
Yeah. I did follow up with a statistician. She said that she usually uses R, so it doesn't sound like she sort of vaguely knows Python. She's not really doing stuff in Python much. So yeah, she wasn't aware of anything that she would use in Python to do, spatial statisticsy type stuff.
Yeah.
Or spatial machine learning, I should say. But yeah, so that's from a statistician rather.
Yeah, there's some things in GeoStatsPy. So all the variogram and kriging stuff is in there, but there's nothing in terms of dealing with, say you want to do like a spatial prediction style machine learning. That sort of stuff is not really in GeoStatsPy, and I haven't seen any cross validation in there as well. So there might be some overlap, but potentially we could even try to join forces and make sure Verde and GeoStatsPy can talk at least.
I think that's worth doing, and I mean Michael Perch seems very approachable.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So
even if it's just to make sure even if it's to make sure that okay, so
can you repeat?
Well, this stuff. I was saying, even if it's just to make sure that he doesn't duplicate our efforts, it would be worth talking to him, because I'm sure it's something that he wouldn't mind having access to.
Yeah, and it's nice that we've been interacting a lot with Jesse Paizo in Verde in the issues and pull requests, and he's been on the Slack as well. And I think he works with Michael Perch. At least they're in the same place. I'm not entirely sure if they work together or not. But yeah, that's already a nice point of contact there. All right, so next we have status on harmonica. Santiago, did you have anything to?
Yeah, the part of the EQLs. Okay, so now, sorry, that's the last point. Yeah, so this week I've been coding a little bit more and catching up with some old work in progress PRs that I have left. So we finally decided to have a common base class for all the equivalent layers. They will override, this base class will override the grid, scatter, and profile methods from the base grider from Verde. So we were facing some errors, some PyLint errors. So we were suspecting that we were making bad design decisions, but after thinking a lot about it, we found this compromise of ignoring those errors, because we actually are aware that we want these methods to be different than the ones that are being inherited. So yeah, we will finally tell PyLint, ignore this. We are happy with this implementation. So after that, the idea, as I said before, is to ditch the spherical equivalent layer grider and to replace it with a geodetic grider. And today I was catching up a little bit more on these topics, but I had seems that one of the sources for when building CardioPy maps, CardioPy tries to download some data from, I don't know what's the website, but the website is down. So all my CIs are broken because they are all waiting for that download, and the CIs time out, and I cannot get a nice green OK tick on my CI. So Yeah, everything because one website is down.
Yeah.
But yeah. um, so yeah, we have. I've noticed this morning we have a lot of issues on EQLs. We'll try to solve it with a few PRs, hopefully. And we will. Yeah, I think will be and we'll get a nice framework for equivalent layers and for any other griders we may want to implement in the future. Besides the geodetic one, I mean the current EQLs only works with 1/r radial basis function, and we may want to create specific griders for the gravity gradient, like using instead of 1/r, using 1/r squared, and see if that changes something or it's the same. I mean, in theory, both should work just fine, but it would be interesting to see if they show some differences.
So we could. It wouldn't be too hard to add the like the power as a parameter to the equivalent layer, right? So you could say I wanna use just 1/r, 1/r squared, r cubed.
Yeah. I should check if. Yeah, but could be pretty easy, I think, because yeah.
But we would just need to pass it along to the underlying number kernels as an argument.
Sure. And yeah, and the other thing is that make these griders capable of computing derivatives. That would be another thing to implement in the future. But yeah, I think what, Martin?
I was going to say on the derivatives, definitely something you used a lot for the Mac.
I'm kind of lost in
you. The programming definitely uses a lot of various derivatives, so we will need that at some point to be implemented.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's one part of Fatiando that kind of makes it stand out amongst the other packages, because most everything is focused on the inversion part. There isn't a lot in the data processing. So yeah, part of this split up of Fatiando was also to make it fit in that wider ecosystem. So for stuff like linear inversions, Simpag is much better than anything that we could do, because they have the finite volume formulation, and that's just much more efficient than just building Jacobian matrices. But yeah, for sure, the derivatives is a major part of potential field interpretation. So yeah, we really need to push to get that in there. Yeah, I suspect a lot of people using the old Fatiando package use it pretty much just for that, to like make a grid and calculate derivatives.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of days. Yeah,
I think Matteo was also saying that he was asking if that was already in Harmonica because he was using it. So we might need to push for that a little bit more.
Yeah. So another stuff I've seen that we still have this old issue regarding the documentation page on coordinates. So I have all the considerations we make when handling coordinates in my head, but probably new users would struggle a little bit with that. So would be nice to tackle down that issue too. So for example, when I say this grid expects Cartesian coordinates, I want users to be aware that I'm talking about projected coordinates and not like geocentric Cartesian coordinates.
Yeah.
So that little stuff, or what do we talk about upward or radius in spherical coordinates? So yeah, that would be nice to have. I think we were postponing it for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think we were also trying to get our heads around all of this and trying to establish a convention because this really it's really hard. Potential fields is really easy if you ignore like if you just ignore curvature. But as soon as you start dealing with a more regional and global data sets, then it gets really confusing with all the different coordinate systems, and then there's the coordinate systems for the observations, and the coordinate system for the position is they're all different. Yeah, especially when dealing with satellites, then it starts getting even worse.
Yeah.
And just it seems like every person uses a different convention. Yeah. So. Okay. So make a note of that. All right. Anything else in Harmonicon?
No, I think not for now. We might be wanting to start working more on the forward modeling and these layers of tesseraoids or prisms. Currently, we have the computations, the forward models for a set of tesseraoids or a set of prisms, but we don't have a quick way to create like a layer of tesseraoids or a layer of prisms, and to make that layer to copy a certain topography or the moho or something like that. And that's another thing we might like to implement. I think it's only a matter of creating like a proper structure and the interface for the user to create those objects. And because the computation code, I think it should be it could be used the current one without any further modification, I think.
Yeah, the current computation is very general. So one thing that we could do later on to build on top of that is some optimizations. So like if we have a regular layer and we are computing on a regular grid that has a particular geometry, there are some optimizations that we can do to take advantage of like the symmetry of potential fields. So you potentially don't really need to compute on the entire grid. You could compute on a couple of points, and then those points will be proportional or the inverse of other points on the grid. So you can just reuse the values. So that could make things potentially a lot faster, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, those could sit on top of the basic generic calculation kernels.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all for me regarding harmonic, I think.
All right. So we have some news in Rockhound as well.
Yes. Since last community call, we decided to move all the sample datasets in Fatiando to Rockhound. So that would make easier to find datasets. And so the issue was that we were having some data sets in Harmonica and some other sample data in Verde and some data sets, third-party data sets in Rockhound. So Rockhound was kind of in the shadows, I think. They were it was having only a few data sets, and they weren't actually used by the other libraries, but Harmonica actually uses the South Africa gravity and the British aeromagnetic data. So it was better to concentrate every data sets into Rockhound. So I started to move the data sets to Rockhound this week. And so once they are entirely moved and the PR is merged, I think we can start deprecating the datasets module in Verde and Harmonica. For Verde, I think we should add like a deprecation warning, but for Harmonica, I think we can just ditch it right away. We are not guaranteeing backward compatibility yet, so. But before doing that, we might need to move the datasets to Zenodo first. So currently, Rockhound will look for these datasets to the GitHub repositories of Verde and Harmonica, but the idea is to remove them from the repositories and store the datasets in Zenodo and make Rockhound to look for them there. So that's it.
So the nice thing about moving to Zenodo is that there's an open issue in Pooch for seeing if we can build a downloader where you give it a Zenodo DOI, and it'll use the Zenodo API to find the actual download link for the files, and then download the file from there, instead of, because right now if you give Pooch the Zenodo DOI, it's not going to know, or it might just download the HTML for the page instead of downloading the actual data sets.
Sure.
But Zenodo does have an API, and you can, with the DOI, get a list of all the files in the Zenodo what do they call it? Like the archive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be pretty nice if we could just give the DOIs and Pooch would know what to do with them.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah. Right. So I think stage one of this, which is putting everything in Rockhound, is almost done, I guess.
The main problem is that we cannot merge it because of this Cartopy error we are facing. Currently Cartopy is having two problems. The first one is the one that it's not plotting well when you paint the land and the ocean. It's painting only one of them. I think the one you put first or second, I don't remember. There is an open issue even in Cartopy for that, so it's not that we are the only ones facing that problem. And the second problem we are having is that when fetching the coastlines, the website where the coastlines are stored is down. So we are getting this timeout connection. Bad week for Cartopy.
So I always feel kind of bad that we're using Cartopy on all these things, and I'm like a developer of PyGMT. but recently, completely oblivious of anything that I did in PyGMT. But luckily, three other people actually have kind of picked up the development, and they managed to get the conda builds of GMT working on Windows. So PyGMT now does work on Windows. It is conda installable because we have a release already. Again, I'm actually pretty happy that I wasn't the one who even made the releases. Someone else was able to do it. But so we could potentially pull PyGMT as a development dependency to build the docs because it works with Syncs Gallery already.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, maybe we could, and then we can circumvent the whole CartoPy issue. Because there were also some things like we weren't plotting we were having trouble plotting BedMap and eTopo1 because the CartoPy projections were really slow.
Yeah.
And I tested the same thing with PyGMT, and it's like a couple of seconds. It's really fast.
Okay.
So there's, yeah, turns out that it pays off to have someone develop the same thing for 30 years. Who knew?
What a strange thing.
Well, 30 years of dedicated development by one very, very smart person really does make a difference. Yeah, so that might be one. Well, at least now that CartoPy seems to be a little bit broken, that might be a motivator to give it a shot. I think I might try to do that, and I'll see if it works, and I'll see if it can get it building reliably on the CI.
Okay.
But it should be good. The conda builds are pretty stable, and we can pin the version of PyGMT and GMT just in case, just so that it doesn't break all of a sudden. But maybe we could use it in the gallery for Rockhound at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I don't know if we have all the features that we need, but I think we do, which is mostly just plotting points and lines and coastlines, and grids. So I think we have all that already in PyGMT. So we might be good to go.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds nice. I've been waiting to give it a try to PyGMT, and I haven't done it yet. So yeah, good news.
Yeah, I really should. I mean, I haven't dedicated too much development time to it now, mostly because I really wasn't needing it at the moment. But it'll be nice to start really needing it, and then I think that'll be some more motivation to dedicate some more time to it.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think well, the three people who picked up development are Dong Dong, who might who's looking for a permanent job, so he might drop out of the radar soon. Wei Ji, who's about to defend his PhD thesis, so he might disappear as well. And Liam Tony, who's also a PhD student. So when the pressure for the thesis comes, I think development will grind to a halt. Yeah, so might need to put some work in there. Yeah, I don't even want to think about when you're going to defend Santiago. Yeah. Well, moving on to better news then, I guess. So speaking of automation, sorry, anything else on Rockhound, Santiago?
No, I think that maybe we can make a release after the data sets are moved. I don't know if we should wait. I mean, I don't know if we should upload things to Zenodo before merging this PR, or moving everything, changing the URLs in the PR, and then merging. But it's almost the same.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah.
So were you planning on uploading, making like individual uploads for every file, or putting all of the sample data sets in a single archive?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about it. But I mean, having single uploads for every file would be a pain, I think, for creating several uploads. So maybe we can just create a single archive like Fatiando datasets or sample data, something like that, and store everything there. But I don't know if I think this discussion we already had in one of the issues. But I don't know if you can download a single file from Zenodo, or you just need to download the whole .zip file and then uncompress. So if I can't download a single file from the archive, I think that would be better to have separate uploads for each file.
Yeah.
Because yeah. Um,
Okay.
but I don't know. Do you know if I can download the single file?
I don't know. You can preview single files in Zenodo, but I'm not entirely sure if you can download them.
Okay.
You might. I think you can with the API, so you might be able to do that with the website as well. So you might be able to find a download URL for a single file, but that would be worth checking. So yeah, if we can't, then we have no choice but to have single entries for the files.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation. I just don't remember where. Maybe on Slack. Yeah, I will look for it. But I think someone answered me that yes, you could download. Oh, here is it. I think. Sorry for. Yeah, I think on the boot channel, on the Slack boot channel, Brian McAfee. Where is it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I will look for it, but yeah, I think he answered me like you can actually, but I'll try to figure out.
Okay. Yeah, if you could check that would be nice.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, I agree. It would be better just to have everything in a single package. Oh, we lost Martin again.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me write this down before, so we can give Martin some time to reconnect. Yeah. A single.
Hey, Martin.
Where did Leo go?
Oh,
is it that on my end, maybe?
Okay.
Back again. It's my turn now.
Yeah. If it's no.
Sorry, Martin. The connection is really bad. It's really hard to hear you. I think he dropped again.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Otherwise, we're going to be pushing on an hour here. Right. So one last thing I wanted to discuss is going with NEP29, which is the NumPy enhancement proposal for supporting Python and NumPy versions.
Okay.
So it proposes a time frame for dropping support for Python versions and NumPy versions. So what we would need to do if we were to adopt this is to mostly just look at one, say so in our documentation and probably in the README as well. And then just keep an eye on the time frame, and then we could drop with the next release of all packages, we could drop Python 3.6, for example. And that would free up a lot of the CI time. So we could drop the CI builds for Python 3.6. And we could require NumPy versions greater than a certain version as well. So that might work. Okay, so Martin posted on the chat here that he could help with the Zenodo upload. Yeah, thanks, Martin. If we need to do that, that would be much appreciated. We can add you to the Fatiando organization in Zenodo, and then you can make uploads there. So I think for that I might just need your Zenodo account, I guess. I don't really remember how that worked, but yeah, we can figure that out. Right, so I would be in favor of NEP29, so just so that we can stop running CI on a lot of the on just old Python versions, and especially for Verde and Harmonica, which are kind of larger packages and they're not really used by a whole lot of other packages. This might be a good thing for Pooch and Bool. We might have to retain, but we might have to be a little bit more conservative since there are others relying on the releases.
Okay.
But I think most of our main users are going to adopt this at some point, so it should be fine. So I don't know. Do you have any strong feelings either way?
No, I like it. I mean, I like the whole community proposed these dates for dropping dependencies. So that way we made, I don't know, if you want to install several libraries on your Anaconda distribution, you don't struggle too much with dependencies and that. So for Pooch, I think NumPy is not a heavy requirement, right?
Oh, it's not a requirement at all.
Yeah.
It would be mostly the Python versions.
Python, okay, yeah.
Right.
But with Bool, it's only NumPy and Python, I think. But yeah, we probably might check out with the libraries that depends on those packages and ask them if they would agree or not, if they have a problem. The thing is, with specifically those both libraries, the CIs, I mean, the tests run very quick, so having one more matrix of the CI is not a big deal.
Yeah.
But for Harmonica, it is, because it takes a while.
Yeah. Okay, so would be good for Verde, Harmonica, and Rockhound. To free up CI time, right? Pooch and Bool need to be careful because of users, and tests are usually quick anyway. Yeah, so I think yeah, we can probably be a little bit more aggressive with Verde and Harmonica right now, because there's not. I mean, there are people using it, but there aren't really other packages depending on them. But even for Pooch, I think it's stable enough now that most of the packages using Pooch don't really need a lot of the new features that are coming in. Those are mostly nice if you're not really using it for building a package. If you're using it just to download your sample data, download data for a paper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't be too bad if we dropped 3.6 and something like Scikit-Image and MedPy haven't dropped 3.6 yet. I think that might be fine if they stick to an older version of Pooch.
Okay.
And I think MedPy probably pins the version of Pooch anyway. But I'm not entirely sure. We'd have to check.
Okay.
Okay. So we need to make issues for this in Verde and Harmonica, and then update the docs and CI builds. Okay. Right. So the final two things I had, I don't even know if it's worth discussing this here now. One of the things that was raised in an issue in the contributing repo was a way to automate the changelog generation, which right now is one of the few manual steps in making a release in any of our packages, and it's the only thing that actually takes some time to do, which is actually is building the changelog. We get a lot from the Git log, but it still needs to be reformatted, and it takes a little bit of work. But there's a GitHub action called Release Drafter that makes the changelog automatically based on the PR titles and labels that you put on the PR. So it'll sort things into categories in the changelog. It'll put a link to the PR, and it also does a list of people who contributed. So it does all of that automatically. The thing with that is that we would need to be a little bit more diligent with the PR titles. Just have in mind that those titles are going to go on the changelog. And what else? And we would have to create the labels and actually remember to assign them to PRs. Otherwise, they would just go in a general category, I think. Yeah, so if that's something that, yeah, that's something that might be worth looking into. So we would have to see how it works. And
these labels are the GitHub labels. It's not that we need to add some word on the PR title, right?
yeah, it's just the Git labels.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so you put a label in the PR, and it does everything automatically.
Yeah, Martin says that because I don't know if the live stream would get the chat. So Martin is saying that the downsides do not seem too bad. I think one would get used to that fairly easily if one is doing it regularly. So yeah sure.
I agree. So we could try it out in one of the packages, and if it works, then we can roll it out to all the other ones. Yeah, so we could check. Yeah, I don't know. We can just pick one, I guess, and go with that.
Okay.
So maybe something like Harmonica that's getting a little bit more love now from Santiago. Might be a good place to start, and then we can once we make the next release, or we could go with Rockhound and then make a release now and then start using it, because it won't be useful between releases because the changelog it's captured when the PRs are merged. So it doesn't build it when you want to release. It builds as PRs get merged. They are added to this list.
Okay. And where
Right.
is
So
it stored?
it's
Or
a draft release on GitHub. So you
okay,
can
okay.
have draft releases.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this GitHub action, it edits the draft release every time a PR is merged. So it would
Okay.
really only work once we have like after we have a release, and then we can start. So if we pick one of the packages, then we can set up the labels that we would need for the PRs,
Okay.
and set up the GitHub action, I guess. But after that, it should be fine.
Okay. So,
I, I,
but
th- I
yeah,
think Rock. I was going to say, I think Rockhand is a good one since we've released them in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a release coming soon, and there's not. I mean, there's not a whole lot of activity in that repo, and we do tend to make releases pretty quickly as soon as something new is merged. So that might be a good incentive to work on it a little bit just to test out the new release system.
okay. Yeah, I think that these categories shouldn't be too much, right? Too many. I'm sorry. Like maintenance, new features, or new data set in the case of Rockhound.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
bug
bug
fixing.
fix. Yeah.
Yeah,
And documentation as well.
sure. So we are actually doing this labeling on the issues mainly. So we just need to do it in the PRs and remember to do it. Yeah.
And the issue labels aren't very good, actually. So we have a label called enhancement, but enhancement could be a new function, or it could be making an existing function better.
Yeah.
So we might want to separate those two. Yeah, but I'm not entirely sure how. But we would need a deprecation as well, a deprecation section, because if there's a PR deprecating something, that should be kind of highlighted. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So let's see. Tags would be documentation.
Yeah.
So that we already have. Then we would have a bug fix, which we or the bug tag I think we already have.
Yeah.
Then maintenance, which I don't think we have. Then there is
deprecation
feature, I guess.
Okay.
Deprecation. Yeah. And enhancement.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And
yeah.
Now I'm actually wondering, do we really need to separate new features from enhancements? Or we could separate between an enhancement that doesn't really change the API. So no new parameters added, no new functions added, nothing like that. It's just an internal thing from a feature which is more of a user-facing thing, like a new function or a new argument to a class or something like that.
Internal enhancement, or maybe just internal enhancement and enhancement.
Yeah. Okay.
Or new feature and internal enhancement.
Okay, so new feature and internal enhancement. Yep. So with the tags can be one thing, but then you can specify on release drafter. So you can say group all the PRs with this tag and call the headline this thing. So we can have a more detailed description in the changelog itself. But yeah, I think these are good separations.
Okay. And what happens if you have a PR with two or more labels? Do you know? Or
No,
okay,
but ideally we don't really want
yeah,
two or
sure,
more labels in a PR.
yeah.
Like we don't want a bug fix and a new feature in the same PR, though it does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Or even maintenance, like I need to pin some
yeah,
library while adding this new feature, and yeah, but
yeah. So the release drafter it builds the change log, but we have an opportunity to. I mean, we are gonna have to do a manual step of getting that markdown that it makes and converting that to RST and copying it to the docs. So there's still a point in which we could curate, like in case we know that yeah, this is also a bug fix, or so we can do a little bit of manual curation. It just helps, I guess, with that.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. So shall we try this in Rockhound then?
Okay, yeah, sure. Um, yeah, so this could be a nice opportunity to add it and then merge the current PR with that moves every dataset into the Rockhound.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah, Rockhound. Uh,
Yeah. Poor Rockhound will be a lab rack for this. Yeah, I'm just noticing that we're like quietly typing and looking at the same document, but that this wouldn't go on the stream, so that's going to be a little bit weird.
yeah. You can edit the link to the document on the YouTube description of the video. So you
Yeah,
can
it should be there automatically, I think,
okay.
because I kind of set up a little template. Um, right. So good that that's decided then. Right. So another thing is the last thing I had was to make a section in the developer guide about transitioning into a maintainer role. Um, so I'm not entirely sure where this would go. I guess it might go into contributing. Um, and so what I had thought is like if you start appearing more on the Slack and on the GitHub, we will start asking you to review pull requests once in a while, and then if you do a little bit more of that, then uh, you'll be asked to merge some PRs at certain points. Um, and yeah, just outlining that is it's not something like you're not voted in. You don't have to ask permission. You just have to kind of be around. Um, and if you're around and are willing to put up with our abuse of your time, then you'll be given the power to do things. I guess. Yeah, so I don't know. That seems to be the way things are going organically at this point. Um, whereas, like Jesse has been kind enough to comment on all the Verde PRs, so I've been asking him for reviews, and he's been doing them. So I'm gonna keep asking. And Martin might start getting some of those soon, I guess. Just a heads up.
There's still time for me to run, I'm hoping.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can always say no, of course. Yeah, but I'm still not entirely sure with this, and yeah, I think we can maybe leave that for a future discussion, unless anyone has.
Yeah, with more people.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've gone on a little bit too long already.
Okay.
But yeah, so thanks. Well, does anyone have anything before we wrap up for today?
I have a little thing.
Mm.
This week I've seen a change in documentation of the Linux kernel, of the Linux kernel, and they are trying to move away from using the words master and slave and whitelist, blacklist, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we can consider it in the future, like moving. I think we are only using master branch, and maybe we can start thinking about moving it to main.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a great change, but I don't know.
yeah. No, I agree. I saw this. I think there was some push to have GitHub do all this, to have some sort of automatic way to do this for repos,
Okay,
but it would probably not be a huge change. It would just mean that we have to create a new branch and set it as the default, and kind of just update our documentation, I guess. Um, and update the Travis CI. A lot of the CI scripts, they check if it's the master branch.
okay,
But yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not super fond of the name master, but yeah, main is just as good, I guess. Or if you want to just be old school and call it trunk, that could also work. Uh,
uh,
but yeah, so GitHub already makes it easy for you to set a random branch as the default branch.
yes. Um, so I don't know if we would break some links, but
Yes, yeah.
okay,
So we would have to be careful when rolling this out, just to check for uses of the word master everywhere in the repo and replace that. So there, because it does appear some places, it's on a lot of the data set downloads. I think Pooch has it a lot. Um, I think the default name that Pooch uses is also master if it's getting things from GitHub.
okay,
So yeah, we might need to be a little bit careful when rolling this out. It might be best to do it in individual repos, and then once all of them are converted, then we can convert we can update the maintenance docs in or the developer docs in contributing, and then have that the bot spread that across the repos.
okay. Um,
We should also maybe look at the orders if there is any interdependencies between, if Pooch is calling stuff, do we do that first or do we do that last? Might just need a bit of thought so that we do it efficiently instead of so.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter too much, because none of the packages are downloading dependencies from GitHub. So, for example, in Harmonica and Verde, they get Pooch from Conda Forge. So it should be fine on that sense. But you're right, it might be best to start with something like Bool and Pooch, and then move on from there.
okay.
Uh, so start with smaller packages like Pooch and Bool. Actually, I think Pooch is probably going to be the trickiest one because it does use its own data from GitHub. Um, yeah, so I think the Pooch is probably going to be the most troublesome. So it might be best to start with Bool.
Oh, we
and then
lost Martin
try
again.
pooch, which might be the most troublesome. Okay. So once all are converted, we can update the contributing and maintenance guides. Okay. And so for a name, are you happy with main? Is that what people are using? Do you know?
Yes. I have to look for this comment on the kernel, on the Linux kernel, but yeah, they were proposing some words, and yeah, I think the first replacement for master was main and secondary or something like that. And in case we might use it for blacklist and whitelist, they would use allow list and block list. That
Yeah.
I mean, there are several options, but I think that's the most clear ones. I think the easier one to understand.
Yeah. That we don't really. I
No,
mean, we don't really use secondary branches. Like we just work straight from master anyway. Yeah. So I think. Yeah. Main sounds good, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Martin, do you have a suggestion for a default branch name?
No, not really. I think main sounds good. It's fairly unambiguous that that is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Right. So yeah, I actually saw. I just found it here. There's a news article saying something that GitHub is looking to rename master with main across its services. So I'm not entirely sure if this is trustworthy.
Or something.
I'll put it in the notes.
I also see something that they're going to be rolling it out on new repos. So you automatically start using main instead of master.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I didn't follow that up, so not sure how reliable that is.
Yeah. Well, we might also just need to update the all the local. That would create a lot of trouble for forks, but we can always just tell people to delete their forks and make a new one, I guess.
Yeah.
If it's causing trouble.
But if you get habits going to change it, maybe I don't know. Maybe we should wait until that happens. So maybe they and.
Yeah, I doubt that they would do it for all repos.
Okay.
Because that would really cause a lot of trouble.
What I saw was.
Sorry.
What I saw was that it was just for new repos. So if you create one now, it will be main instead of master by default. But that, also trying to change all of them universally across the site sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of support from their side, it just sounds really difficult.
Yeah. I think people would hate it if they did that. I actually want to check. I kind of want to check if they're already doing that, but I think they might not be yet. Yeah, I don't think it's implemented yet.
And they're probably going to launch it as a beta feature.
Yeah, probably.
And you will notify it if you want to try it right now before it's fully released or not. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I'm on board with this. Would you want to? So should we try this with Bool first, since it's fairly small? There's not a whole lot of development going on in there.
Okay.
Sure. So this might be a good place to try to roll it out and see what breaks and what doesn't break.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Santiago.
No, no problem.
All right. So I think I think we can safely wrap this up. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for staying up late, Martin. And yeah,
Oh, it's all right. It's not last week Thursday.
so I'll see you around on Slack and GitHub, and maybe talk to you in September. We'll see if life allows. But yeah, if not, then yeah, see you in October then.
Okay.
Cheers,
All right.
guys.
Cheers. Have a good
Okay.
night, Martin.
Have a good one.
All right,
Bye,
see
Martin.
you.
Thank you, Leo, for hosting.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.